Hello, Ingrid, how are you?
Oh, I'm fine. How are you?
I'm good, thank you, and thank you so much for joining us here on the show and stepping in so quickly into Dame Andrea's shoes. First of all, how is life as the Deputy Mayor in Greater Lincolnshire?
Oh, it's really good. Really communicating with lots and lots of people, getting lots of stuff done. Obviously, shaping and formatting the team. So, small steps, but we're getting there.
No, well done to you. I think you had your big exhibition, didn't you? I think that's what it was called, Apologies, which saw businesses from around the country, in fact, around the world, coming in.
We did, and it was really well attended, and the connections we've made and are continuing to make, driven from that, are really good.
Well, that's brilliant. Well, thank you so much. Well, first of all, if I may, Nigel Farage has done a big speech today about how he would make sure that if he were in charge of the country's finances, and I'm sure we would all prefer him to be in charge of those than currently Rachel Reeves, who is hell-bent on doing anything but growing the economy. And he suggested, rather than raising taxes, which is the simple lever that Labour love to pull, how about doing some tough stuff? End universal credit for foreign nationals, which includes EU citizens. Raise the immigration health surcharge by doubling it. Reform personal independence payments, so those people with mild anxieties and depressions, for example, would be on back-to-work programmes rather than receiving money. Cap foreign aid at just £1 billion, so a 70% reduction in that. And deport foreign national offenders out of our prisons, which would free up about 10,800 spaces. I mean, how do you feel hearing this? Is this the stuff of common sense? Is this the stuff that people in Greater Lincolnshire will be going, finally, someone's putting the British people first?
Absolutely, definitely. So the people I'm talking to, they just want a more common sense approach. You know, Nigel has set out one of the most significant reforms to the welfare system in decades, insisting that British citizens are taking the priority, they're taking the lead, and that's exactly how it should be.
How do you feel, though, when you get the Conservatives today having a swipe at you, saying you guys are just as bad as Labour? The two-child benefit cap means you're willing to give lots of money to people on benefits rather than actually finding a way of helping those people who are in work. What if the Conservative Party say you're Labour light, essentially? Do you have any trucks with what the Conservatives say, or is that just something that you laugh off in reform?
Oh, for me, I think it's just laughable, to be fair. I think, Labour can raise taxes for the ordinary people, or they can adopt our plan. The British citizens should not have to pay out more while the system gives handouts to people who are not contributing.
And out of interest, we also saw Nigel Farage do a piece in the Mail today where he's talked about the BBC licence fee. He's made a point that he thinks that the BBC has obviously lurched from crisis to crisis, scandal to scandal, to use his exact words, citing obviously Jimmy Savile and Hugh Edwards with their legal issues, is probably the politest way I can put it, as well as Gary Lineker, who's obviously brought the BBC into disrepute as well, and Bob Villan with the terrible anti-Semitic chanting that took place at Glastonbury Festival. But he says Reform UK doesn't intend to abolish the BBC. It just wants to basically abolish the licence fee. Do you agree with Nigel, or do you think the BBC is a dinosaur and needs to be made extinct?
From my perspective, I think the licence fee needs to be abolished. I think the government needs to appoint somebody with a record of coming in and turning companies and their cultures around. We need an industry that we can trust. We need the BBC to be trustworthy. If we can't trust them, then why should we pay for them? Preferably, it would be somebody coming in from the private sector who would run a forward-facing business and understands PR. There's lots of good things on the BBC, let's be fair. There are programmes that people really enjoy, but as far as their news broadcasting is concerned, I think there's a lot to be desired.
And so would you be someone who'd be willing to subscribe if we went from a subscription model? Would you happily subscribe to the BBC? As you say, it has many award-winning dramas and documentaries.
So subscribing to the BBC, I think it really, really needs looking at. I think there's an awful lot that needs to be rectified, and I think that in general we need to review the subscription as a whole to find out whether we're getting value for money.
Now, interestingly, we obviously saw Shabana Mahmood make quite a punchy speech, particularly for a Labour Home Secretary. Wide sweeping reforms, many of which I'm sure will be very, very popular with the electorate. Out of interest, however, may I ask, do you think that we will see these reforms go through? Do you doubt that Shabana Mahmood will actually be able to deliver on these changes?
For me personally, I don't. I mean, look at how many things have been put in place already and definitely have failed. Look how much money's been spent on these things. I don't think that that's going to work. I think the only way that this is going to work is if we actually have a change within government, something more far hard-hitting, somebody who's actually going to look at really strong reforms. At the moment, we're going soft touch, and that's not what we need.
Do you not think those steps, though, however, were a step in the right direction? That what Shabbar Mahmood was saying is at least moving the dial towards very much more the reform consensus and rhetoric and ideas when it comes to deterring illegal migrants? Or do you doubt that these plans will actually stop people getting in boats from France and crossing?
No, I mean, it is a tiny step in the right direction. Is it strong enough? No, I don't believe it is.
And so you would support Nigel Farage and other Reform MPs, for example, voting against this rather than doing what the Conservatives are doing and lending their votes to Labour to say, because it's a step in the right direction, we're willing to back you, even if we don't think it's tough enough?
No, as far as I'm concerned, no, we can't back that. We need something far stronger.
Well, I always love straight and simple answers to straight and simple questions. I'm loving this. And out of interest, with reforms plans, some people might say, for example, that leaving the ECHR is not just the simple silver bullet that people think it is. It could lead to tumultuous disagreement within the EU, where we might need to return people, could cause the one in, one out deal with France. I know I'm saying that with a lot of irony, to be ripped up, because I think it's been like, 100 out and about 3,000 in. Since the scheme has been set up. But hey, and obviously that's including the people who've already come over on small boats, and obviously we took from France directly. Do you not worry about potentially the repercussions that could be enacted upon the public if there was something if your plans went ahead?
I believe the EHCR, we need to leave it. We need to leave it now. That's the only way that we can move forward with any of this.
And you'll be happy to hear lots of our callers, lots of our listeners and texters have been telling us they are yet to believe anything that this Labour government is going to tell us on this particular issues. Many people still saying that they're willing to lend their vote to Reform UK. Look, I do see at times there's a lot of people in the press saying Reform's support has stagnated, if not dropped into the high 20s. I think that's quite funny when you think they started at 14%. In Lincolnshire, obviously, you are one of the flagship local authorities and, of course, the Mayoralty now in the area when it comes to Reform UK success. Do you think that you guys at the local level are delivering value for money? There's been a lot of attacks on Kent County Council reform-led, and the fact that the Doge sort of was maybe not as successful as it once was. Or do you think this is ironic that many Conservative and Labour-led councils, and even Lib Dem ones, are somehow being given nowhere near the same scrutiny as we are with the 10 reform councils that exist in the country?
Absolutely. I mean, if you have a look at what we've done since we came in, basically there has been massive savings made. There's been massive steps taken forward, and there is still more to come.
Well, fantastic. Look, Councillor Ingrid Sheard, the Deputy Mayor, of Greater Lincolnshire Reform UK.